Hello everyone, my name is Kirill and this is the first lecture on philosophy of Freedom of Nikolai Berdyaev. According to Berdyaev, freedom does not mean arbitrariness. Freedom is positive and creative power, and it is not negative arbitrariness. And consciousness of freedom as an arbitrariness for Berdyaev is a fall, is a sin. The freedom which is understood as an arbitrariness is contentless and empty freedom. And striving for freedom without any real positive purpose is a striving for emptiness. It is a bias to nothingness. This negative freedom is a freedom for freedom, but not the freedom for real, meaningful, positive purpose. This is the freedom from and not the freedom for. And eventually, such negative, formalistic freedom always turns into necessity, into their slavery. And personal existence degrades in such freedom. So, according to Berdyaev, genuine, complete, true freedom implies creative act. Freedom and creativity have a very close connection. Freedom is groundless ground for creativity, and freedom reveals itself in creative act. And moreover, according to Berdyaev, freedom is not only formalistic freedom of choice between good and evil that were put to a person. Complete freedom is a person's ability to co-create a good being. We can even say co-create good and evil, but this is in meaning that Berdyaev the meaning of Berdyaev's statement is that freedom implies creation of new being, but in its last step, of course, it is good being. It should be noted that all those definitions are only the attempts to characterize the different aspects of irrational mystery of freedom, which is inexpressible or can be expressed only approximately. That is why we provide different definitions that does not contradict, that don't contradict, but complement each other. And speaking of formalistic freedom of choice, we must add that for Berdyaev, complete freedom is not even the freedom of will. He calls freedom of will school term that for Berdyaev, non-academic, non-school philosopher without any doubt, have negative meaning. And this term, according to Berdyaev, is not comprehensive. But this statement of Berdyaev is quite radical. Berdyaev, without any doubt, recognized the freedom of will, the existence of freedom of will, and defending the existence of freedom of will is one of the most fundamental aspects of his philosophical concept. But even the freedom of will in understanding of Berdyaev and freedom as such is not classical school formalistic freedom of will. And thereby Berdyaev challenged not only deterministic anti-free views on human person, but also classical philosophical school views on person's freedom, which, according to Berdyaev, are not enough, that don't reveal the human personality and therefore offer false understanding of it and of the path that person is called to take. And if such formalistic freedom, the freedom of choice, the freedom of will, formalistic, negative, contentless freedom is put to the center of the anthropology, when such freedom is absolutized, person comes to that very arbitrariness referred to earlier, but with some external, not essential restrictions that can easily be moved beyond or changed, required by initial personal arbitrariness. Choice is always something, for Berdyaev, choice is always something imposed on person, and person always is required to choose between good and evil. There is some external norm, some external imperative that distinguishes good and evil and imposed on person, this distinguishing from the outside. But true personal freedom, according to Berdyaev, comes from the inside. Freedom, absolute, genuine freedom, does not imply choice. Yes, absolute freedom, true freedom, does not imply choice, limited and imposed on by some external power. Freedom is independence and self-determination that comes from the inside. And it is not possible on the way of negative arbitrariness and also self-affirmation or egoistic isolation arbitrariness is only the illusion of freedom that makes human person the slave of the world. But freedom as independence and self-determination in its genuine sense, person gains only on their divine human way, on the way of appeal to God, and it is only God who is interested in absolute sense, in absolute meaning, interested in human absolute implemented freedom. Personal existence has absolute dignity, but it is not self-sufficient on its positive way. And this is God who gives man, who gives a human person the ability to save its freedom, to realize it on the positive way. And without God, person finds itself facing negative, absolutely unlimited freedom that strives to turn into necessity and into slavery. Although initial freedom of self-determination, albeit formalistic and contentless and maximally unrealized, is ineradicable. But person is deprived of positive freedom, the option of the way of positive creative freedom. Since God is a creator and a personal source of the creativity in its genuine sense, person is a co-creator in union with him. God gives man an ability, God gives man the freedom to create, creative freedom. God gives persons initial freedom, content, an ability to create being, good being. And freedom of choice is only one of the facets of person's multifaceted freedom, while choice as such can be even connected with unfreedom. The necessity of choice can paralyze spirit and even suppress it in insurmountable reflection. So the freedom of choice is only a step to complete positive freedom. Genuine creative freedom comes when the choice is made. And freedom of choice, it is a part of the true, complete, creative freedom, but freedom cannot be limited to freedom of choice only.